So it was my best friend's birthday about 2 days ago, and my parents were out of town as my grandma was sick, and she needed someone to look after her, so both my parents went to help her. Me and my little brother Chris were going to be home alone for at least 2 weeks, and I had a great idea. I wanted to throw my best friend James a small birthday party, just us and a couple of friends, so I did. I called 5 of our closest friends and my girlfriend. The party was great. We ordered pizza, I broke into my dad's liquor cabinet and I took some of the Bacardi and some rum. Chris was upstairs in his room playing Nintendo with his friend Lewis. A couple hours into the party, Chris calls my cell phone. I ignore it a couple of times as I assume he wants to ask me when is the party going to end. But finally his friend Lewis came downstairs to see me. He leans over my girlfriend and whispers, "There's someone in the attic." At first, I pay it no mind, but then I hear loud noises coming from my parents' bedroom. I grab the closest thing by me, which was one of my mom's crystal candle holders, and I walked upstairs. James and my girlfriend Mia follow. I open my parents' bedroom rapidly and I see Lewis and Chris crying under my parents' bed. I drop down, pick up Chris, and before I can speak, he points at the closet and whispers, "He's in there." I get up, tell James to swing the door open, and when he does, nothing happens. There was no movement. I pulled my phone out and shined my flashlight. No one is there. I tell James to get up and tell Lewis to get ready. We all go downstairs to the party and I tell James to watch after my house until I get back. I got my mom's car keys and got in the car with Mia, Chris, and Lewis. I drove to Lewis's house so my brother and him can spend the night there. After I arrive home, I get out of the car and lock it, and as soon as I'm about to head inside, I see a shadow, but not like a shadow of a tree or furniture. I see a shadow of a man, and it's coming from the window in my attic. I sprint into my house and up the stairs. I open the trap door by my room and I head into the attic. When I get to the top of the stairs, a disgusting odor hits my nose and I nearly puke. There he was. The sick motherfucker was hiding in my attic. The whole time. He spots me and he starts to freak out. He began to throw boxes and old toys I used to play with at me. I ran towards him and pinned him down. He reeked, but I still had him. I started screaming for dear life as I didn't want to fight him alone, but to no use. The music from downstairs must have been so loud that no one heard me. He starts pushing up and suddenly someone picked me up. He had a friend and he must have been watching me as I climbed up the ladder, and I was waiting for the perfect time to grab me. His friend was way bigger than the first man. He picked me up and threw me. Then the other guy smashed my head with an old vase my mother had stored up there. That's all I clearly remember. Everything else is a blur. Only thing else is when I woke up, they were gone. It's been 2 days now and I haven't seen or heard of them since. For the rest of the time my parents are gone, I'm staying at Mia's house with Chris.
Number 2.
When I was in university, I studied on the newly built campus. It was really busy and had a great atmosphere. Only creative degrees were taught here, so it just felt like a free, energetic learning environment. Because it was new and there was expensive equipment on site, security was tight. Only the bottom floor was open to the public, and you couldn't get upstairs without an ID pass. There was also the threat of terrorism due to its location, but that's not part of the story, just to explain the tight security. One day, I sat working on one of my projects on the second floor. As I mentioned, it was really busy, so I had no reason to feel unsafe. After a while, I was approached by a lad who was struggling to operate one of the printers. They were tricky, so of course I got up to help. I left my possessions where I was sat because the printer was only a few steps away. The guy seemed polite, but he struggled as English wasn't his first language. After a few minutes, I got the printer going for him. but he needed to enter his student ID number. He fumbled around his bag and said he didn't have it, so I just let him have my printer credits. At this point, it didn't occur to me that he didn't have his ID pass, which has the ID number on it. How did he get up on the second floor? I left him to it after logging onto the printer with my details. He couldn't do anything but print off items, so there was no security risk. I went back to my laptop and continued working. After a few minutes, the same guy came to sit next to me. He struck up a casual conversation, but some of his questions were a bit odd. I just put it down to him struggling with the language barrier. He kept fiddling with his phone, and this kind of comforted me a bit. It was like he wasn't totally involved in the conversation, maybe texting someone else. It took away some of the intensity. That was until I realized he had my phone in his hand. He must have slipped his hand into my coat pocket that was hung on the chair. I have an iPhone. It's a common phone, so it took me a while to realize. He must have noticed me see that he was on my phone before I could say anything, so he handed it back to me. I asked him what he thought he was doing, and he said he'd be in touch. The thought of him going through my pictures still makes me sick to this day. I now have a lock on my phone. I spoke to the security staff and they said they couldn't do anything because he technically didn't steal my phone. There wasn't any criminal activity, so they didn't really bother. I told my housemates and they all found it hilarious. That was until about 2 weeks later I got a phone call, just breathing at first, and someone whimpering my name. I remember putting it on loudspeaker while me and the girls were getting ready for a night out, and one of them told the guy to fuck off and stop calling. I was terrified I'd bump into him again on campus and felt on edge walking around uni. After a while, I forgot about it because the call stopped. Unfortunately, a year later he started leaving voicemails again.
Jess, I just want to make sure you're okay. Are you okay? Please, talk to me and let me know you're okay.
He sounded like he was crying. If I ever picked up my phone through reflex without looking at the number, I'd pretend to have a bad signal and that I couldn't hear him. It's been about 3 years since the incident, and about 4 months ago he called again. He left a voicemail and played it for my new flatmate and boyfriend to hear.
Hello, Jess. I'm just calling to see if you're still around. I want to know that you're in good health.
It sounds innocent, but the way he used to say it was threatening, almost like he'd make sure I wasn't in good health. They were so freaked out and showed me how to block the number. I've moved to the inner city, but it's kind of close to where I studied, so I'll always worry I'll see him again. Recently, I was followed home by 2 men and worried that one of them could have been him. I managed to get home safe, but I truly hope I never meet that creepy voicemail guy ever again.